The mirror in my room was my sanctuary. It stood there, plain and unassuming, reflecting back an image that had never felt quite me. My name was Ethan, or at least that's what my parents called me, and what the teachers droned during roll call. But every time I looked into that mirror, I saw someone else. Someone softer, someone more graceful, someone. Jessi. I'd been sneaking moments like this for as long as I could remember, carefully applying my sister's makeup when no one was home or twirling in her old dresses. It wasn't about pretending or playing dress up. It was about catching glimpses of my true self, however fleeting. But the world outside my mirror wasn't so understanding. High school was a jungle where labels stuck like glue, and if anyone ever caught wind of my secret, I knew the cruelty would be unbearable. That was until the letter arrived. My mom had found it first. It came in a thick, cream-colored envelope, embossed with elegant lettering that read Renaissance High School for Individual Excellence. I had no idea what that meant, but I'd never seen her look so excited over a piece of mail. "Ethan, come here," she called, waving the letter like it was the winning lottery ticket. Reluctantly, I shuffled over, my stomach sinking as she began to read aloud. Renaissance High wasn't just any school. It was a place designed for kids who didn't quite fit the mold. Students could explore their identities freely without judgment, all while receiving top-notch education in a safe environment. The words seemed too good to be true, like something out of a dream. And yet, as my mom handed me the letter, her face alight with hope, I felt a tiny ember of possibility flicker inside me. "I think you should try it," she said softly, her tone free of the usual pushiness parents sometimes have. "You've always been different, Ethan. Maybe this is where you'll feel like you belong." The first day at Renaissance High was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. The campus was sprawling, with modern glass buildings and colorful murals on every wall. Students milled about in all kinds of clothing, some in traditional school uniforms, others in bright, eclectic outfits. I even saw a boy wearing a gown that shimmered like the night sky, chatting casually with a girl in a suit and tie. I clutched my bag tightly, feeling completely out of place in my jeans and plain t-shirt. A part of me wanted to run back home, back to the safety of my old room and familiar mirror. But then I saw the sign above the main entrance. "Be who you are." Inside, the school was buzzing with energy. Teachers greeted students by their chosen names and pronouns, and there were posters advertising clubs like Queerlit Society and the Spectrum Theater Troupe. For the first time, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as alone as I'd thought. It was during lunch on that first day that I met Mia. She was sitting at a table near the window, her hair dyed a bright electric blue and her fingernails painted to match. She waved me over with a grin. "Hey, new kid," she said, sliding her tray aside to make room. "I'm Mia. What's your name?" "Ethan," I stammered, awkwardly setting my tray down. Mia tilted her head, studying me for a moment. "Ethan, huh? You don't seem like an Ethan." My heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She shrugged. "I dunno. You've got this vibe, like there's more to you than you're letting on. This place is all about reinvention, you know? Who you really want to be." I didn't know how to respond to that, so I just nodded and focused on my food. But her words stuck with me long after lunch was over. The turning point came a few weeks later during drama class. The teacher, Ms. Vega, was a whirlwind of energy and charisma, with a knack for pulling everyone out of their shells. That day, she announced we'd be performing short monologues, and she handed out a stack of scripts for us to choose from. As I flipped through the pages, one piece caught my eye. It was titled "The Girl in the Mirror." The monologue was about a young woman who saw her reflection as someone completely different from who she was forced to be in real life. My hands trembled as I read the words. It felt like the script had been written just for me. When it was my turn to perform, I stood on the small stage, clutching the paper tightly. My voice wavered at first, but as I spoke, something shifted inside me. The emotions I'd kept bottled up for years poured out, raw and unfiltered. By the time I finished, the room was silent. Then Ms. Vega began clapping, and soon the entire class joined in. "You are incredible," she said, her eyes shining. "What's your name again?" "Ethan." I replied automatically, but the word felt foreign in my mouth. Ms. Vega smiled. Well, Jessi, you have a gift. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I froze. She'd called me Jessi. And for the first time, it didn't feel like a mistake. From that day forward, I started experimenting more openly. With Mia's encouragement, I began wearing clothes that felt right. Flowy skirts, soft sweaters, and shoes that clicked pleasantly on the tiled floors. My classmates were supportive, offering compliments and advice on makeup and hair. The first time I showed up as Jessi, complete with a light coat of mascara and a peach-colored lip gloss, I felt like I was finally breathing. At Renaissance High, being Jessi wasn't a secret or something to hide. It was celebrated. I joined the Spectrum Theater troupe, where I played female roles without anyone batting an eye. I signed up for the Queer Lit Society, where we read stories about people like me and shared our own. The more I embraced my identity, the more confident I became. Jessi wasn't just a reflection in the mirror anymore. She was me. Of course, it wasn't always easy. There were moments of doubt and fear, times when the voice in my head whispered that I'd never be good enough, never be real enough. But Renaissance High had a way of silencing those voices. One day, during a school assembly, the principal, Dr. Harper, gave a speech that stuck with me. Here at Renaissance, we believe in transformation, she said, her voice strong and steady. Not just academically, but personally. You are all artists, shaping the masterpiece that is your life. And masterpieces take time. They take courage. But most importantly, they take love for yourselves and for each other. Sitting there in that auditorium, surrounded by my classmates, I felt a surge of gratitude. I wasn't alone in this journey. We were all finding ourselves together in our own ways. By the end of the school year, I'd come a long way from the shy, uncertain kid who'd walked through those doors on the first day. I'd found friends who accepted me, teachers who encouraged me, and a community that celebrated my authenticity. Most importantly, I'd found Jessi, not just in the mirror, but in the world. As I stood on stage during the end-of-year talent show, performing a monologue I'd written about my journey, I saw my mom in the audience, tears streaming down her face. And for the first time, I knew she saw me, not Ethan, but Jessi. And Jessi was here to stay. The applause after my performance at the talent show felt like waves crashing over me. I stood there, my heart pounding, as the faces in the audience blurred together into a collective expression of warmth and pride. This was it, the culmination of everything I'd worked for over the past year. But the journey to becoming Jessi wasn't over. If anything, this was just the beginning. The summer before my second year at Renaissance High was a transformative one. My mom, now fully supportive and even a little protective, surprised me with a shopping trip. Jessi, she said hesitantly as we pulled into the parking lot of a trendy boutique, I think it's time you had your own wardrobe. Something that feels like you. I stared at her, my jaw dropping. Are you serious? She smiled, her eyes crinkling at the corners. I've never been more serious. Inside the store, I felt like a kid in a candy shop. Racks of soft pastels, bold prints, and delicate fabrics stretched out before me. My mom followed me around, offering advice but never pushing too hard. That looks lovely on you, she said as I held up a sundress covered in tiny daisies. Try it on. In the fitting room, I slipped into the dress and turned to face the mirror. For a moment, I was breathless. The reflection staring back at me was unmistakably Jessi, bright-eyed, smiling, and finally comfortable in her own skin. When I stepped out to show my mom, she clapped her hands to her mouth, her eyes glistening. Oh, sweetheart, she said, pulling me into a hug. You're beautiful. When school started again, I walked through the doors with a confidence I'd never known before. My wardrobe wasn't just an outward expression of who I was. It was a declaration. Mia greeted me with a wolf whistle. Damn, Jessi, you're killing it. I laughed, twirling to show off my new outfit, a pleated skirt paired with a cropped cardigan. Thanks. I feel amazing. You look amazing, Mia said, linking her arm with mine. Ready to take the school by storm this year? Absolutely, I said, grinning. One of the most exciting things about my second year was joining the student council. The school encouraged student-led initiatives, and I decided to run for the position of diversity liaison. The role involved working with the administration to ensure that every student, regardless of their background or identity, felt seen and supported. The campaign was nerve-wracking. I had to deliver speeches, organize events, and convince my peers that I was the right person for the job. But every time I felt doubt creeping in, I reminded myself of why I was doing this. At Renaissance, I'd found acceptance and love. I wanted to make sure every student who walked through those doors felt the same way. On election day, as I stood in front of the student body delivering my final speech, I poured my heart out. "This school changed my life," I said, my voice steady despite the butterflies in my stomach. It gave me the courage to be Jessi, to embrace who I truly am. But not everyone finds that courage easily. As diversity liaison, I want to make sure that no one has to face their journey alone. Together, we can create a school where everyone feels like they belong. The applause was deafening. When the results were announced later that afternoon, I could hardly believe it. I'd won. As diversity liaison, I threw myself into my work. I organized workshops on gender identity and expression, brought in guest speakers, and collaborated with the Queerlit Society to start a zine where students could share their stories. One of my favorite projects was the creation of a school-wide identity week. Each day had a different theme, from Pride Through the Ages to Express Yourself Day, where students could dress in a way that reflected their truest selves. The highlight of the week was the Spectrum Ball, a dance where everyone was encouraged to come as they were, no matter what that looked like. I spent weeks preparing for the ball, poring over every detail with a team of volunteers. When the night finally arrived, the gymnasium had been transformed into a shimmering wonderland of lights and colors. As I stood at the entrance, welcoming students in their glittering gowns, sharp suits, and everything in between, I felt a swell of pride. This was the kind of space I'd always dreamed of, a space where people could be unapologetically themselves. Not everything was perfect, of course. There were still moments when the weight of the outside world crept in. Occasionally, we'd hear about schools or communities where kids like us weren't so lucky. One day, during a meeting with Dr. Harper, I brought up the idea of outreach. Renaissance is amazing, I said, but there are so many kids out there who don't have a place like this. Maybe we can do something to help. Dr. Harper nodded thoughtfully. What do you have in mind? Together, we came up with the idea of a mentorship program. Renaissance students could connect with kids from other schools, offering support and guidance. It was a small step, but it felt like a way to spread the magic of Renaissance beyond our walls. By the time senior year rolled around, I hardly recognized the person I'd been when I first arrived at Renaissance. Jessi wasn't just a name or a persona. It was who I was through and through. The end of high school was bittersweet. I'd grown so much here, surrounded by people who had become my family. But as graduation loomed, I knew it was time to take the next step. I'd been accepted to a college with a strong LGBTQ+ community, and while the idea of starting over was daunting, I felt ready. At our graduation ceremony, I delivered the valedictorian speech. As I stood at the podium, looking out at my classmates and teachers, I felt a wave of emotion. When I first came to Renaissance, I didn't know who I was or where I belonged. But this school taught me that identity isn't something to be afraid of, it's something to celebrate. Each of us has a story, a journey that's uniquely our own. And as we leave here today, I hope we carry the lessons we've learned with us, to be kind, to be brave, and to always be ourselves. The applause that followed was thunderous, and as I walked off the stage, I felt a sense of closure. That summer, as I packed for college, I came across the old mirror from my childhood bedroom. I paused, staring at the reflection. For so long, that mirror had been a place of longing and secrecy. But now, as I looked into it, I saw Jessi staring back, not as a fleeting dream, but as a reality. I smiled and turned away, ready to face whatever came next. Because no matter where I went or what challenges lay ahead, I knew one thing for sure. Jessi was here to stay. Thank you so much for watching till now. It means the world to have you here. This community is all about empowering each other and celebrating the incredible journeys of everyone on their path to living authentically. If you're ever feeling lost or alone, remember you have a whole family here for you. Hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and let's keep inspiring each other, sending you all the love and strength in the world. Until next time, live your life by your rules.